You ever get that feeling that the modern world is trying to slap a price tag on absolutely everything, even the things that should be priceless? Well, today we're diving deep into a really powerful idea from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He warned us way back when that the spirit of commerce wasn't just changing how we buy and sell things, it was changing us. It was changing our values and our very idea of who we are.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the fundamental clash between these two ways of life. Then, we'll get into what makes up the merchant's mindset, and right after, we'll contrast that with the noble's code. From there, we'll see exactly how commerce can twist our values, and we'll wrap up with the big one. Is it even possible to live a noble life today?
All right, so before we jump in, here's something I want you to just keep in the back of your mind as we go. What's your life's currency? I mean, really, when you boil it all down, what are you trading in? Is it the actual money in your account, the hours in your day, or is it something you can't really count, like honor?
Okay, let's get right into it. The heart of Nietzsche's whole argument is this epic battle, but it's not a battle between armies or nations. No, this is a battle between two completely different ways of seeing the world, of deciding what matters. So on one side, you have the spirit of commerce. Everything here is about utility, calculation, exchange, and price. It's a world that runs like a spreadsheet. But on the other side, you've got the ethos of nobility. This finds value in things like pride, dignity, and, get this, even in things that are magnificently, wonderfully purposeless. For Nietzsche, these two systems are in a fight to the death for the soul of the modern world.
So let's start by getting a real handle on the worldview that Nietzsche saw taking over everything, the practical, calculating mindset of the merchant.
According to Nietzsche, this spirit of commerce is a lens through which everything is seen in terms of its usefulness. Value isn't just there, it's not inherent. No, it's decided by the market, by whatever the common person thinks is a good deal or a shrewd move. And that right there is a radical change in how we value things.
You know, this way of thinking basically turns our entire existence into a ledger book, just one transaction after another. The only thing that has value is what's useful. I mean, just think about our modern hustle culture, right? If you aren't optimizing every second, you feel like you're losing. Nietzsche saw this coming a mile away. He said it makes life laborious, yeah, it's full of work, but it drains it of any real greatness.
And this leads to an incredible phrase he used, shriveled honesty. Think about that. For the merchant, honesty isn't about your character. It's a business strategy. You're honest because it's good for your brand, it protects your credit score, it's just a tool. And for Nietzsche, that kind of honesty is totally hollow. It's just an empty shell.
All right, now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this war, the noble soul's code. This is a worldview that is playing a completely different game, one that exists far beyond simple costs and benefits.
The noble ethos is ancient, primal. Nietzsche calls it atavistic. It finds dignity not in what you can buy or sell, but in things that are beyond purpose, beyond utility. You know, like a breathtaking work of art, a moment of deep thought, or a heroic act that has absolutely no payoff. They're valuable just because they are.
And here, you see the total opposite of the merchant. The noble soul is all passion. Maybe they're even a little dangerous, but they are never, ever calculating. Their self-worth comes from an inner, ancient pride, not from what other people are willing to pay for it. Their life isn't a transaction. It's what Nietzsche calls a heroic eruption of the spirit. Just this powerful, creative, overflowing energy.
So we've got these two opposing forces. What happens when the spirit of commerce just completely takes over a culture? According to Nietzsche, it puts the human spirit in shackles.
Nietzsche's argument is that our obsession with productivity, this whole time is money culture, it has literally murdered our ability for what he calls noble leisure. And this isn't just about taking a weekend off. He's talking about the kind of deep thinking, the real creativity, the quiet reflection that doesn't have an immediate profitable outcome. In a world of commerce, that unproductive time is seen as wasteful, as lazy, maybe even as immoral.
This table just lays the collision out so clearly. Look at power. For the merchant, it's what you own. For the noble, it's the will to power, that internal drive to create and overcome. How about time? For the merchant, it's a resource to be squeezed for every penny. For the noble, it's a space for folly and deep thought. You see? These aren't just small differences in opinion. They are two completely different ways of being human.
So, how did we get here? How did this commercial mindset become so dominant?
Nietzsche connects it all to one of his most famous ideas, the death of God. Now, he wasn't being literal. He meant that our collective belief in a higher, divine source for our values, well, that was falling apart. And that collapse left a massive vacuum at the center of our culture.
And who rushes in to fill that vacuum? The merchant. Without a god to define what's good and valuable, market logic takes over. All of a sudden, wealth and utility become the new standards for everything. The marketplace becomes the new church.
So this brings us right to the biggest question of all, and it's a personal one for every single one of us. If we're living in a world that is completely saturated with this commercial spirit, how can any of us hope to cultivate a noble soul? Well, Nietzsche doesn't just leave us in despair. He throws down a challenge. He invites us to become free spirits. What does that mean? It means we have to consciously reject this trap that says everything must be useful. It means finding that ancient pride in a life that doesn't make sense to the market. The ultimate goal is to become a sovereign being, someone who doesn't just swallow the values of the crowd, but has the courage to create their own. And so we end right where we started, with a question for you. In a world that desperately wants to put a price on your time, your skills, your creativity, even your attention, take a second to ask yourself, what parts of you, what actions, what beliefs will always remain fundamentally, unshakably priceless?